Good morning everyone, and welcome to a crisp and cool morning here in South Africa. We're in the Sabi Sands Reserve on Djuma Private Game Reserve, and perfect timing, the sun has just risen up over our eastern horizon, and I'm happy to say that I'm teamed up with Brian this morning. And it's been a while since we've worked together, so looking forward to an adventure with him. VM and Brian have swapped, and VM is with Mark this morning, and Mark is already following up on tracks of the Nkahuma Pride of Lion, which we saw last night. They've headed south from their last position, and Brian and myself have decided to try our best to show you some impala, male impala rutting. That's that funny snorting noise you can hear in the background, and there's a few females in front of us that one male is protecting.
Morning, mobile station.
Excuse me. So they are all calm and very relaxed, but there's a male who is running around furiously, ensuring that no other males come in and chase these ladies away or try and steal these ladies from them. I'm just going to try and reposition the vehicle quickly. The male just returned after chasing another male away and is now in the process of chasing one of his ladies around. Where did he go? Hoping he headed up into the quarantine clearings. We're just on the fringe of a very big open area, and ideally... oh, there he is. Let's see what happens here. Okay, I think I might just stop here. It looks like he may start some of his funny antics. Now, for those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome on board. And just to let you know, this is a live safari, so what you see is actually happening this very second. Here he goes. Sadly, a bush was right in the way of what we were trying to achieve there. But we're going to stay with him and see if we can't get you another view. Like I say though, it's a live safari and it's also interactive. You have the opportunity to send questions through to us, and to do that you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. And Nikki and Tara, who are in the final control, will send those questions through to us. Now I feel like we may get lucky here. He is in a bush at the moment, but I'm hoping he's gonna come running out at some stage. It's interesting, there's one female that's been following him more closely than others, and here's the animal that's making that funny snorting sound. It develops into a growling roar almost when they start running, and it's a very intensive rutting period over basically a month. Here we go. Ooh, are we going to see their mate? This is looking promising. She certainly did present. Look at this. Apologies for the fence in the background. That's the owner of Djuma's house. Now, if they do mate, it's a very, very quick process. It'll take a split second. He'll basically just jump on her back and fall off. And this explains why she has separated herself from the rest of the herd. She's obviously very receptive, and all of the females will become receptive within this 1 month period. Maybe she would like some privacy behind this bush. I'm not too sure, but I'm guessing they will just pop out on the other side. I don't want to interfere, but then again, I do want to share with you whatever's going on behind that bush, so we are going to move. Well, who knows what we missed in these last few seconds. This is going to be absolutely beautiful with the morning sunlight in the background. Well, he lost focus and there's a lot running through these male impalas' heads at the moment, and their behavior sometimes is hard to explain, but they are charged with testosterone. And I'm gonna, ooh, okay, here's another male on our right. He's just come in and trying his luck here, so I'm fairly certain that we are going to see the initial male that we've been watching come and chase this individual. Now I'm just going to reposition the vehicle again. There's a few bushes that are just in the wrong place for us to see what's going on. But as you can see, the impala are very relaxed with our presence, so we're not having an impact on their morning. They're so caught up in their own battles. Here we go, here we go, here we go. So this is the male who appears dominant over this small patch of turf and the ladies that he's managed to round up within it. The other male that approached is now showing signs of avoiding confrontation and has probably already been chased away several times by the other male. What I can tell you is that we got really close to seeing impala mating, and look, here they are again. Will we get to see it? It's something that I've seen so rarely, and another male's coming running into the mix now, chasing another female. We've just got a question through from Lucy and James. Good morning, and thanks so much for sending your question through. Lucy and James would like to know, how long does this rutting period last for? And it's about a 1 month period, and it's often kicked off in and around the first full moon in May. So that's often a trigger for the impala, and it's quite interesting that it's a 1 month rutting period. It's quite short relative to other antelope who may mate over several months at this time of year. And the reason, or the thing that makes this so important to the success of impala, is that it ensures that all of the young are born within a 1 month period. So basically the predators only have a 1 month window in which to capitalize on very young, inexperienced foals or lambs, whereas if they were to give birth over a very long period, you can see how he uses his legs, his front legs, he kind of kicks them up, and he also does a lot of sniffing and licking of his lips, processing the scent of this female. It would be incredible if we actually saw them mating. Like I said, something that's seen so rarely, and I'm not sure of the reason behind it. They usually do rut predominantly in the cooler hours of the day, but the whole of last night we could hear them running around quarantine, chasing one another, rutting. And Chris Road Cropper alerted us to that, and thanks very much for your update. Chris heard them on the Djuma waterhole cam, which is a live camera. And thanks for those updates. Just going to roll forward and see if we can't get any more views of this early morning courting. And what a morning it is here. This is a bit of a tricky spot for Brian because there's a lot of bushes, but they are quite close to us, so let's see what happens. And Susie Johnson's just mentioned that they sound like hippos, and you're right, Susie, it's not hugely different to the call of a hippo. It also could confuse a call of a leopard, which has a rasping sound, almost like sawing through wood. And you can hear how the noise I've just made is fairly similar to what these impala are making. So the initial noise that he makes is a nasal snort, and that progresses into the strange gurgling roar. Now, you'll notice that this impala has been on the move non-stop, and this can be the downfall to their success. They can only probably sustain themselves for a few days at this rate, and then another impala who hasn't been in the pilot seat will probably come in and take charge. It's highly unlikely that one male would be able to secure a territory for a whole month at this rate. They don't spend much time feeding and lose condition fairly quickly. They also provide the predators with a relatively easy source of prey with this gurgling noise that they make. It rings out and can be heard from kilometers away. And it's not uncommon to find lion or leopard heading straight in the direction of this noise. They know that they're going to hopefully position themselves in an area where one of these males could simply run into them. Chris in Australia, good morning. Chris would like to know what time of the day do they mate, and it certainly is probably increased or more likely during the cooler hours of the day, in the morning and the afternoon. But it certainly will also happen at night, and we did hear them last night, all night, calling and chasing one another. Opinion. Various textbooks will have different opinions on this matter. Virginia in Kentucky has just asked a great question. Morning, Virginia. Virginia would like to know whether the male impala will only mate once with any given female. I don't think so. I'm fairly certain it would take several copulations to ensure that there is a successful mating, and I think a lot of the time with animals, especially the animals that have got a very short copulation, like impala, the male will literally jump onto her back and slide off. It's a split-second maneuver, and often in these kinds of cases rather, it will require many copulations, many short copulations. But having said this, though, it's a hard one for me to say I've seen and witnessed, because I have only seen impala actually mating a handful of times, and that's why I'm led to think that a lot of it happens after dark. Either that or in privacy behind all these bushes we see them running behind. He's really having a go at that bush, displaying his strength and dominance. Well, it's good to hear that a lot of you are enjoying this interesting behavior of the impala. It's an animal that can be overlooked because they are fairly numerous, but when they're performing like this, it certainly makes for a good start to the morning. Well, folks, that was a really interesting start, and it's something we've been talking about so much over the last few weeks, the male impala's rutting season, but we've hardly been able to show it to you, so I'm glad you've got a bit of a look into the life of loved up impala. And for now we're going to carry on. There's still a few more weeks for us to show you this interesting action with the impala, but I think it's time to go and check up on Mark and how he's doing, following up with the lion tracks of the Nkuhuma Pride. We're going to continue and see what we can find, and we'll see you a bit later.
Warm welcome from a fresh morning here at Djuma Game Reserve with our sunrise safari, and a beautiful sunrise actually. We just come out of a little bit of mist. My name is Mark. VM is on camera with me this morning. Hello everybody. And we have been following the Nkuhuma Pride of Lion since about just after 6 this morning. We went straight back to where they were yesterday, and I followed their tracks from there. They headed straight south, cut across to the old hyena den just off Philemon's Dip. From there they must have gone to Treehouse Dam. Excuse me. Gosh, interrupted, sorry. So they must have gone to Treehouse Dam, and from Treehouse Dam they turned east towards Twin Dams, and we followed their tracks all the way across the riverbed at Twin Dams. They cut through the bush, coming on to, this is Gowrie Main, and we are on our southeastern corner. This little corner up ahead of us over here, you can see there's almost like a crossroad. On the left hand side is the very top end of, or southeastern corner of Djuma. On the right hand side of the road over here, this corner here, this is another property, and then going east from this little junction up ahead is, well, Chetwa on the right and Tortridge on the left. Now, the lion tracks come to exactly here. And it was, I suppose, fairly good timing that you crossed over to us as I got to the end of the lion tracks. Well, it's the end of, for me, at any rate. They come up the road and they have turned in over here. You can see there's almost a little game path that runs through here. Here you can see the pathway. And they've gone in there. So we're going to have to leave the lion tracks. They've obviously gone on a big walkabout. Interestingly, there were tracks of a very big male. When maybe we can go back towards that. We're going to just have a look up. I think we'll have a look up Cheetah Cut Line for a little bit, and then maybe come back down towards Leadwood Road. And I want to go back to Twin Dams because there were tracks of a big male lion heading that way, and I think it might be one of the Matimbas. So join us. Let's go and see what's up Cheetah Cut Line. An interesting tracking exercise and fun as well. Still one or two of them here on the road, but they have gone south. Somewhat misty Monday morning. And when we get a mist, a very fine mist that was not a really low-lying one, but it does tend to fill up the spider webs. In Texas. Penny, morning to you. The big Texas, hello. Howdy. Penny wants to know, do I know what the last animal to go extinct in South Africa was? What was the last animal? This requires a little bit of thought. The last large mammal would probably have been an animal known as a bluebuck. It was a relative of the sable and the roan antelope. And that was probably around the late 1800s maybe. Also the Cape lion, although I guess you could say it was probably a subspecies, as far as I know. Cape lion, that probably was wiped out long before even the bluebuck. That's a bit of a difficult question. I'm trying to think of birds or fish. I think we have lost a number of fish species from the introduction of things like largemouth bass and trout in some of the rivers. And I wonder. Hello, Paula.
Hello, morning. Good morning, Andrew. Very well, Willie. Yeah.
Run off ratting.
Okay. let's get there, walking and make our way. And where are you now, Alex? Come on to the cut line heading up from Djuma Dam, so I won't be long. I'll take you trying.
Franklin, causing havoc. Franklin.
I'm just gonna get a closer look at your roller technology.
It's stopped and it's so well camouflaged. It's not a very common Franklin. Lucy, morning Lucy. Lucy was just inquiring about temperature. We're running at about 16. It's probably dropped to even maybe 15 with the sun coming up, which is Celsius. It's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Clear blue skies, and we'll be cruising at an altitude of about 1,000 feet. And you see that gorgeous little Franklin. This looks like it could be a female. Now, if you didn't know it was there, you probably wouldn't see it. And I only saw it because she moved. But staying still like that is one of her best defenses. Koqui, spelled C-O-Q-U-I. Pretty about the smallest of all the Franklins that we have here. We do get other smaller partridge type birds known as button quail. About as small as a sparrow, the button quails, and the button quail chicks are even smaller. And they're almost impossible to see, button quail, because they're so much smaller than francolins and even better camouflage. The only time one really gets to see them is when they may be flushed by an animal or flushed by a vehicle if they're next to the road. And often when they fly up from the grasses, where they land, they'll stay. They'll land and then stay with it. So if you can pinpoint a place where they land, you might be able to find them again. But once they spook, it's very hard to catch up with them. There are a number of bird species that live here that are around us, but we very rarely get to see them. WildEarthTV, that's our email address. Question came in from Gail in Calgary, asking about the humps we have in the road. We won't see them on a road like this. You'll mostly only see them let me show you what Gail is talking about. You'll only really see them on roads that run downhill, as opposed to a road running across the ridge like Cheetah Cutline. But if you have a look down Central Road here, you can see there's a hump, and with these humps you'll notice there's wherever there is one, you'll see how the side of it has been dug away. It's what we call a mitre drain, and these humps in the road are to basically push water off of the road, so that water doesn't run down the road, because water running down the road will cause very bad erosion. And so every now and then when you're going down a slope, you'll find these mitre drains, and they are man-made, Gail, for that reason. Drainage. Erosion can change things quite dramatically. There is a very, very narrow layer of topsoil here, and sometimes we get to see a profile of it maybe in the riverbeds, or where things have been dug away, maybe by elephants. But the nutrient layer of soil that feeds everything is a very, very shallow layer, and if one doesn't prepare for or protect against erosion, you can lose a lot of topsoil. And of course that has a lot of knock-on effects. Topsoil washes down the riverbeds into the rivers, starts silting up rivers, and eventually gets washed out to sea, starts choking corals. And this is mild here. I mean, it's negligible with the roads that we have. Pretty stable environment. But where you have deforestation in parts of excuse me, like Central Africa or South America, the destruction of forests, well, it gets worse in areas like that, because the forests protect the soil so much. Having done our eastern boundary, not much coming across. The odd buffalo track and impala track. So we're going to start making our way back south again, and maybe we'll head west towards Arathusa. We've got quite a distance to cover, but we can try and do that. Those elephants that we saw yesterday sound like a good plan. So I'm going to hand you over to Scott, and he'll be back with us in no time. So enjoy another side of Djuma, and I'll see you in a little while.
Welcome back, everyone, and we are about to arrive at Buffalo's Hook Dam, not knowing what we could find here, but we thought it would be nice to join you in on the arrival here. It's such a beautiful still morning. I wonder who's going to be at the waterhole. Will we have enough momentum to get into a good spot? It doesn't look like it. So our stealthy approach was not with enough speed. It's one of my favorite places on Djuma, this waterhole. I'm Not sure exactly what it is that has caused me to really like this place. Possibly we've had so many good sightings here. Or maybe it's just the pretty scenery. Well, there's one mammal in the area and one bird, and these two animals are the Buffelshoek Hook Dam locals. The mammal is the hippo, which you can see over here. Some parrots just flew past. That's the screeching noise you can hear. They've actually just landed, and hopefully they're going to stick around for a moment or two. There's two of them perched on the top of a bush willow tree. They're a little bit obstructed now, but you'll still get an idea of their beautiful colorations, and it appears that they are feeding on the four-winged seed pods of this bush willow tree. You can see the rusty red coloured seed pods, and they'll have to break those open. In the center of one of these pods are the seeds that they'll be feeding on, helping this plant to disperse its seeds throughout this property in their droppings, thus helping the plant greatly in seed dispersal. Without the help of these parrots, I'll show you a bit later, they rely on wind to disperse their seed, and that's why it's a four-winged pod, so that it rolls when the wind blows. You get two-winged seed pods as well that will be transported by water, like a little raft. It's not easy to see at the moment, but you can see how the parrots are using their feet to help them, no different to other parrots around the world. They've got very dexterous little talons that they can use like hands. And this is the brown-headed parrot. It's the only parrot we get in this area. I'm wondering if I can reposition ever so slightly. I'm just going to try and reverse a tiny bit, and we may get a few better angles on them. Oh no, that backfired. Anyway, a good start to the morning. There's not too much else going on here at the waterhole, and I don't suspect too much more to happen until things heat up. Obviously there's a chance an animal could come and have a drink now, but it's more likely during the hotter hours of the day. Well, we're going through a little dip. The signal may shake and shudder for a moment or two, but it'll be fine as we come out on the other side. Sadly, it sounds like in Kahuma apologies for that short dip in signal, but it's got to do with that deep little ravine we just went through below the dam. As I was saying a little bit earlier, that sounds like, sadly, the Nkahuma Pride have crossed out of Djuma. But we had a great few days spent with them, and it was one of the longer periods we've had lying on the property for, so really grateful for that. And we are now all hoping that hopefully we can find you a leopard this morning. I think there may have been some tracks called in on the southeastern part of our property where Mark's been snooping about, and I think we're going to head in that direction. There's been nothing really evident in terms of signs or sounds from the bush that there are any predators in this area around the northeastern part of the property. In California, good morning, and thanks for sending your question through. Chris is interested to know, how do chameleons and snakes and other reptiles deal with the cold in winter? Well, it's a great question, and interestingly enough, quite a few snakes move around during the winter and actually mate in the winter. They are probably less active than they would be in the summer months, but that's not to say that they cannot move during winter. Our winters can have quite warm days, 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, which is around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly, I'm guessing. So quite warm days, and this allows them to heat up, bask in the sun, and warm up enough in order to be able to move. Chameleons we see a lot less in winter, and they will hide out in thick bushes or even within cavities in trees and basically hibernate to a degree. It's not as intensive as a hibernation in areas where it gets snow and it's very cold and inhospitable. It's not quite that bad here. We very seldom even get frost here. But it is fair to say that the reptiles are less active during the summer months, and they simply bunker down in winter. I'm driving very slowly in the hope that we're going to find some paw prints of anything interesting walking down these roads. But all I can see is some old elephant sign, which you have on the road on the right. But sometimes when you can't see anything, it's good to just stop and listen. And we might get some clues from the animals, which may be alarm calling at any potential threats. Jeffrey in Texas, good morning, and Jeffrey's asking a similar question to what Chris has just asked, and Jeff would like to know, do the animals use burrows more in the winters as hiding places? And I think it's certainly fair to say that they do. A lot of the animals will crawl into the warm excavated tunnels and networks of burrows that are made by some animals when they're looking for food. But later on they create keystone figures or keystone kind of monuments, you could say, that are critical to the other animals' survival. And lots of sharing is done amongst animals. You occasionally have porcupine and hyena in the same den site. It's not common, but it does happen. Bizarre relationships where animals may share burrows if there's not enough around in the colder months. Well, I haven't heard anything here, but we're going to continue. I'm feeling that for some reason my gut feel is telling me to go left and not right. Suggestion through from Bullaray. Suggesting that I could try and imitate a male impala rutting in order to try and call in a leopard. And there's two fundamental problems with that, Bullaray. The first is that to make that noise is extremely difficult, and I don't even know where to start. So I was actually trying to make the noise for Tara this morning, and it's such a difficult noise to imitate, that of the male impala snorting and gurgling and roaring. And the other problem is, and I know you were joking, is that we wouldn't in any way want to give a leopard or any other animal a false call in order to increase or benefit our own viewing. But it was just a funny joke, and I don't think I could try all day to call an impala, and if a leopard came it would be through default more than anything else. It's a great day to see tracks, and the reason why is that we've got good sunlight, and the sunlight at the moment is getting cast from a very low angle because the sun's only just risen. Now when looking for tracks, this low angle of the sun helps us to see them because it casts a shadow on the walls of the track. As soon as the weather's overcast or the sun's right above us pointing straight down, we don't get those shadows on the tracks, and the ground can look like a blank canvas. And I'm hoping if I find a nice sandy patch of soil, I'll be able to show you exactly what I mean. This is not the best road for it, although there are patches where it does become quite good, and that's another thing to factor in when tracking. Some roads are easy to track on because they're very sandy. Others, the substrate is a little bit different, or more hard or more compacted, where animals will leave a less clear print as they move along. Okay, well, it sounds Mark has found a beautiful, beautiful sighting for all of you, so enjoy what he has in store, and we will catch up with you a little bit later.
Any guesses, folks? Any guesses as to what birds these are? And you can let me know via Twitter, #SafariLive, or you can send an answer just in the subject line. Don't have to send a whole email. questions@WildEarthTV. Beautiful morning light. It's very seldom that we get to see these magnificent birds in such beautiful light. They were a little bit closer to us earlier as I arrived here, but I think they were just a little bit too intimidated by the car, so they flew further back into that dead tree. They have been nesting in this area for many years now. There's a road named after them, not too far away. And I'm curious if any of you know who they are. Well, while I'm waiting for some tweets and emails, I'll tell you a little bit about them. They are hunters. They are also scavengers, and they're actually a very interesting bird because they have a couple of unique features. As an adult, they have a very much shortened tail, and so they don't have that stability of the tail in flight, and so they have a very distinctive flight, which is it's a rocking kind of a flight. They rock from side to side. They soar at a very low altitude of only about 200 to 300 feet. They are not birds that rely on thermals as much as they just rely on a little bit of the warm air to keep them up. And they actually don't soar like most other eagles. They fly in a grid type of pattern. They fly up and down their territory, either hunting or looking for a carcass or perhaps a kill. And quite often, finding these birds in a tree might indicate a carcass or a predator nearby, in particular a leopard. They are famous for hanging about leopard kills, along with another cousin of theirs, and of course 1 or 2 small vulture species. But since I've been here for a number of years now, I've known a pair of them to nest nearby. Sometimes we even see 3 of them in the tree. We've had 3 adults at one time, which was probably one of the youngsters leaving, but we often seen them with the youngster. And it takes about 7 years for them to get their adult plumage, so the youngsters do hang around for quite a while. Georgianne, Sam, Virginia, Ramey, Power, Funk, and Diane, and Katrina, and Jerry. Everybody getting it right. I don't think there's been one wrong answer. So I guess we got some keen birders out there. Indeed, the Bateleur snake eagle, also known as the short-tailed eagle, a group of eagles known as the snake eagles that are quite specialist snake and reptile hunters. Very striking eagles. Quite beautiful. Red feet, red beak. Okay, let's continue. It was a nice find. Both of them preening. Probably got a little bit damp overnight from the dew. Now I can tell you a little bit of an update. The Nkuhumas, although they crossed south, they must have still been heading east, and at some point much further east from us, they must have crossed back over Gowrie Main and then turned north into Torchwood, because they have just been found at Torchwood Dam, which is, excuse me, Franklin. Yes, follow your husband. Thank you. Preston Franklin. So it's due east of us by some distance. I'm not too sure how far. It's probably about half a mile, maybe. Or maybe not so far. Maybe quarter mile. I'm not too sure how far in Torchwood Dam is, but it is a bit too far to hope that they might come back this way today. So just to recap, from where the lions were, they went south past the hyena den onto Weaver's Nest, and then they headed east from Weaver's Nest to Twin Dams, and then all the way up Gowrie Main, and have ended up on Torchwood, at Torchwood Dam, which is due east of us right now. But I'm going to go back to Gowrie Main, and I'm going to go back to see if we can find out what happened to that big male. There were tracks of a very big male. As Scott was saying earlier, and when you were at Biffles of Dam, I think he was talking about the morning light that we have and how good it is for tracking, and it was ideal. We were just getting the sunrise coming through, and it was fairly easy to follow those lion tracks, especially since there were 8 of them. It made it quite easy. Not so easy when you've got this one cat like a leopard that treads very lightly. But with 8 lion, I could see where they got to Twin Dams, where they crossed into the riverbed at that big jackalberry, and I could see that because of the dew and the dampness of the sand, you see very soft sand sometimes just caves in after an animal steps in it. So sometimes you don't really know what animal it was. All you see is a conical depression in the sand, and you have to sort of guess. You look at the gait and you look at the spacing between footprints, and you could sort of gauge what animal it was. But this morning the lion tracks were quite distinct. You could still see the toes in the soft riverbed, in that river sand. And then of course, because there hasn't been very much traffic as yet, there'd been one or two cars, probably crack of dawn, that must have headed up Gowrie Main, but 8 lion that weren't necessarily walking in single file. They were all over the road. They were lying down. There were places where we could see where they'd been lying down, and they must have slept for a while. But interestingly, they were found because Andrew from one of the other lodges, Andrew used to be a part of Djuma, but Andrews was after a leopard, and he had actually seen a leopard from a distance, and he was trying to find the leopard again, and he found the lion, and the leopard was calling, and they actually got interested in the sound of the leopard calling and went in that direction. So I'm waiting to hear what might happen. Scott, come in.
Morning, Bob.
I did copy that they had one towards Torchwood Dam, but no, I inquired that evidently it was quite far from Cheetah Cut Line, but if it's getting closer, where I'm on Leadwood. I'm close to getting closer back to Twin Dams. Maybe if you want to go up to the cut line and see if it's going to come out there. I want to just follow up on Big Male line tracks that I saw at Twin Dams.
Okay, something different. I'll stand by. Yeah.
Okay, mate, good luck. So Scott is from Buffelshoek Dam has gone up to Gowrie Pan, so he's quite close to Cheetah Cut Line, and that leopard that I've just mentioned now actually might be coming out towards Cheetah Cut Line, so Scott's going to stand by there and hopefully it might come out. Andrew seems to think it might be Tundi. Who is Karula's daughter, sister of Shadow, who we see sometimes at Arethusa. Speaking of Arethusa, I'm going to try and make our way there. Scott is up in this part. This is the eastern part of the world. What a poor tail. Been a big herd of elephants at Arethusa, and they were back at the dam. One of our zoomies, thank you, I don't remember who that was, somebody mentioned, it was Barbara, somebody mentioned that the Ellies were back at Arethusa Dam, which had been about midnight, which means that they may be just feeding in loops and getting back to the dam when they're thirsty, unless it's other elephants. to go back to Scott. Scott's got something to show you, and I'm going to see if I can find something too. So I'll see you in a short while.
Welcome back, and this isn't an animal we see very much of at the moment. They are such pretty animals, the zebra, and if you look closely you'll notice that the foal is busy nursing. So we've hit the jackpot here, and the reason why we are in this area is that we are hoping that a female leopard that's been found on a neighboring property will continue heading towards us. She is heading towards Djuma, and how lucky have we got that while we are waiting here for the leopard, we've come across this beautiful herd of zebra. Now, the reason why we don't get too many zebra here, especially at this time of the year, is mainly because of habitat. They like eating very short grass, and there's not many open grassy plains in this area of the Sabi Sands. And it just goes to show that even though it's an iconic animal of Africa, it's not one that we see very much of here. And interestingly enough, the field guides here, whose guests will typically come for 2 or 3 nights, will often spend their last morning game drive in search of zebra, hoping to show their guests, having ticked off a lot of typically harder to find animals like lion and leopard. And different to the impala that are rutting at the moment, zebra will compete for a harem of females throughout the year. So there will be one stallion here with all of his ladies, and it's an ongoing process, so there's not an increased rutting period. They do have their mating season, but they will fight for females throughout the year and try and maintain their harem. So interesting, the different social dynamics between the animals. To differentiate between male and female is not very easy on the zebra, but the individual on the far right of your screen, as she faces away, you'll notice there's a vertical black stripe between her hindquarters, and this is indicative of a female. Males, their rumps will touch, so it'll be white on white, and they won't have that vertical black stripe below the tail. So that's one of the easier ways to distinguish. You'll see a fork-tailed drongo in the background. Quite a common character to see following herbivores, especially the larger herbivores, because the drongo knows that by hanging around these animals, there's a chance that they will chase up insects that the drongo can then fly down and catch.
Ja, if you want to Alex is not there.
I'm just going to have a quick chat with Aubrey, one of the guides. He is with this female leopard, and I just want to understand exactly where she is and the chances of her coming here.
Okay, I'm in North Road, so heading north. Looking for Nyani this morning. Andrew, I'm calling.
What I will do in the meantime, though, while I wait for my gap on the radio, is try and get us a little bit closer to the zebra.
Thanks very much. We had a good over there, the inquiry. Just dropped some guests off and met some more now quickly. Where do you leave those in Gala?
I hope they don't run off. They're looking a little bit skittish, but I'm sure we'll get a few more great views of them. I'm hoping to show you the stallion and the difference in the rump.
I saw your
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, exactly where he's coming from.
Awesome, they are all popping out into a bit of a clearing.
Follow my mobile.
So we should get a few more great views. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
You'll notice how different the stripes are. And just like a leopard has its own unique spots, zebra have their own unique patterns, just like our fingerprints. And they are mesmerizing, the coats, and I often enjoy starting on one stripe at one end of the body and following the flow and pattern through. Such a unique kind of camouflage to have, and this is called disruptive camouflage. It helps to confuse the predator by not only breaking up the animal's body into many different pieces and shapes, but also when they are in a herd moving like this, they all kind of merge into one being, making it difficult for the predators to distinguish one animal from another, which makes singling out and targeting any given individual, a weak member, a little bit more tricky for them. Aubrey for Scott. Okay, well, incredible how they can just dissolve so effortlessly into the undergrowth, but they are heading towards a little road, so we may get one last view of them. Aubrey for Scott. Morning, Orbs. I'm just on pipeline, Cheetah Cutline. What's she doing? Is she still mobile northwest? Do you think she's going to pop out here?
Yeah, she's very back and forth, yeah. But, yeah, she's going in northwest direction. She was talking the mountains from her still. She gave up now. She's heading towards the pipeline. Northwest.
Okay, copy, thanks. I'll stand by here if you don't mind just keeping me updated. Okay, well, good news, folks. I'm not sure if you copied that transmission from Aubrey, but basically he said that she's been moving kind of up and down, but her general direction is northwest. She got a bit distracted hunting some animals, but they ran off. But we are going to stand by here, and while we wait, I did pick some of the seeds from two different plants. This is from a bush willow, and this is the four-winged pod that you saw the wind blow away there, and that is exactly how they get dispersed. Apologies. By having four wings like that, it allows the wind to transport the seeds into a new area where they'll germinate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this little seed case open to show you what the parrots were feeding on. There's not much, but within this seed pod is a little seed. So it's a huge transport device that the plants have in this pod to transport this tiny little seed. And that's what the parrots were feeding on. Now, that was from a bush willow, a red bush willow tree. And now this next seed pod is the two-winged variety. So the four-winged gets transported by wind, and the two-winged, like this, gets transported by water. And you can just imagine it floating down a river or wherever there's a little bit of rain and a downpour. These seeds will be transported, and again, it's just one tiny little seed within this shell. This one's a bit harder to break open. I'm actually battling to get into it. but within here somewhere there will be a seed. I can't break into it though. But again, a big transport vessel for a very small seed inside. So I guess the plants have got their own backup plan in either wind or water transporting their seeds, but a lot of the time the animals that feed on their plants and seeds are actually doing them a favor by also ensuring that they get transported. And I guess when the birds do drop off the seeds after digesting them, the seed is also coated in a potential form of nutrition and minerals to also help that seed growing. A little fertilizer spot. Good. Well, what I think we can do is we can go on a very short drive around, see what we can find while we do wait in this general area. The road to our right is called Pipeline Road, and at the moment the leopard is somewhere further to the right, and she's basically heading towards us from that general direction. She could pop out onto this road, and I'm hoping if she does, she will use it like a major highway to bring herself straight into Djuma and hopefully towards Buffelshoek Dam, because that again is the general vector that she's heading in. Some of you may remember this road. We spent an incredible afternoon with Mvula, the dominant male leopard, and at the end of the drive he headed away from us down this road. It was a beautiful, beautiful sighting then, and potentially we'll be treated to another beautiful sighting this morning, but with the leopard heading towards us rather than away from us, starting our morning with her rather than ending our afternoon like we did with him. The same question from Lewis, Charlie and Lynn, all interested to know about a specific zebra that was seen a few weeks ago. I think Brent was the one that saw it, and he actually got a few photos of it. It had quite a severe gash on its hind quarters, and no, I haven't seen it. I don't know, Brian, have you seen it recently? No. So we're not sure if it's been eaten, which could have happened, or it could simply have moved off to another area. From what I heard, the injury was bad, but animals are incredibly resilient, and even in an injury which may appear to be quite bad and which may cause the animal to limp and appear to be not in the best condition, may actually be a little bit confusing, because as soon as a lion or a leopard comes around, that zebra runs off as if there's nothing wrong with it. You may complain about an injury or an ailment, but if push comes to shove and you need to get from A to B, you make a plan and you do it. So that is something to remember with the animals that are injured. Sadly though, we are not sure where exactly that zebra has ended up, but they do move. And we've even noticed quite intense movements of both zebra and wildebeest from the summer into the winter, and their numbers have certainly decreased. Well, interestingly enough, these zebra came down this road towards us before we found them, so their general direction was moving from the north to the south. And their hooves are exactly the same as a horseshoe. I'm going to try and find some clear ones to show you here. But it's one of the easier tracks to recognize out here. Where's a good one? Am I too close, or we'll just be able to work it out. So you can see the very distinctive horseshoe. I'm just going to jump out to show you clearly which one exactly and which direction they're pointing in. Which one are you on? Next one. That one there. So the track here, the horseshoe, is in that direction, and if you go to the next one down, you'll also see, again heading in this direction, a very small depression at the front of the toe as it would have pushed forward. So that's one of the easier tracks, and again just useful for us to know where the animals are moving and where they've come from. Well folks, while myself and Brian hang around here in the hope of a leopard's arrival, let's head on to Mark and see how his morning's coming along, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Hi, welcome back, and once again fairly good timing, because I've just found something. We're at a quite an important junction. It's a junction on Gowrie Main. We're south of Treehouse Dam, and we're on this junction where it comes onto Gowrie Main and this little Gowrie entrance, and there are leopard tracks that I'm sure either Djuma or quarantine male. I'm going to see if I can show you the tracks. Hyena tracks following it. So let me go forward a little bit. And then try and forward. I've got to go backwards to go forwards. I want to angle the vehicle so that we can show you the tracks. So in that tire track over there are the tracks of young Djuma or quarantine. I'm afraid I can't tell the difference between the two as yet. And then just a little bit closer are the tracks of a hyena that are about the same age as the leopard tracks. There you can see the hyena tracks almost parallel, and I'm guessing that maybe the hyena was following the leopard. So I was on the way to Arathusa, but I think now that we've got one of our cats coming back onto Gowrie, I think let's see if we can find something. The lion tracks that I had crossed over, I mentioned it I think, crossed over onto Little Gowrie. So let's see if we can see where this cat went. Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty. Thinking leopard might have taken that pathway, shortcut down towards Treehouse Dam, because he didn't come here, or did he? No, not looking. I'm seeing the hyena tracks come this way, but I'm not seeing any of the leopard tracks. This is Spam Road. We need to go onto the Treehouse Dam Road. Came in this pathway, we might find his tracks further on. Still nothing. So far, let's see, I think let's get down towards the dam. There they fairly confident, since he's on the road and he's heading towards the dam, he's clearly making his way from one area to another, and unless there was something here like a duiker or a steenbok or a parler that he went after, my guess is there I can see his tracks now, still heading straight. So we're going to try and jump the gun a bit. Instead of following each and every footprint, I'm going to take the general direction, and the next time we're going to check where he went is when we get closer to the dam and around the dam wall and the roads leading away from the dam, if he's not lying up next to the water. Should we hold our thumbs, cross our fingers, and knock on wood, and all those other things? Look at this here. You can see these tracks very clearly in this morning light, just up ahead in the right-hand side of the road. Yeah, kitty, kitty. Brown-blooded kingfisher. You're going to be able to see it. Trying to get a better view, and off he flew. Back to the tracks. Drongo. In the road, still heading towards the dam. He might have cut.
Those are nice and cold.
Straight down to the water. And this is where now we have to see where he came away. If he's not down there, then we'll have to see if we can find his tracks leading up from the water. But he definitely took the pathway down there. There is an impala ram here, which is a bit disappointing. Not that there's an impala ram here, but just that if there's an impala ram, I doubt whether there's a leopard. Which means that he was here much earlier. Probably about the time we were following leopard tracks. There goes a steenbok running away. Now, just want to make sure he didn't come back this way and head down that road. Nothing here. Oh, what's that? Okay, I'm going to carry on tracking this cat, and in the meantime I think Scott's got a big surprise for you, so we're going to cross over to Scott while I'm trying to find where this leopard came back from the water, and I'll be back with you shortly. Hopefully I'll be able to find him.
Welcome back, folks, and we've got some great news, and sorry to take you away from Mark following those very fresh leopard tracks. That's so exciting, but in a way it's a blessing in disguise, because now he can focus on trying to find the leopard. He may need to jump on and off the vehicle, and you can stay with us, because we know it's just a matter of seconds until Karula pops out. Now this is the leopard we've been waiting for. It is indeed Karula, who's a female leopard whose territory encompasses Djuma, but we haven't seen very much of her recently. And it's probably been well over a week that we saw her. And we've just got a glimpse of Aubrey in his vehicle. She crossed over a road and is now in the bush heading somewhere roughly towards us. She could pop out at any stage, so help us to find her, please. As Brian pans through this thick vegetation, we need all the help we can get to spot her. And I wonder who's going to spot her first. We may get some help from squirrels or Franklin that may detect her as she moves, and that'll help us pinpoint where she could be moving, but at the moment it's dead silence. Brian's got a big smile on his face, waiting in anticipation. So do I. As leopards, as well as lion, as they move through thick vegetation, they'll often stop and assess their surroundings, making sure there's no potential threats, as well as making sure there's no potential prey. If they were to charge through thick vegetation, they would blunder many opportunities and also possibly get themselves into trouble, especially for leopard. Leopard don't want to bump into a pride of lion, even wild dogs or a clan of hyena. They could get themselves into a spot of bother, so they will be very cautious. Her general direction of movements has been north and west, which makes sense as to why she would have crossed over the road that she did, because that road runs exactly east-west. But she is still heading towards us, and I have just seen Aubrey's vehicle off-roading in the general area where Brian is scanning with the camera. So good prospects. He can stay with her and keep an eye on her as she moves towards us, and he'll continue to update us as he has been as to what exactly she is doing. And it seems like she may have already moved a little bit further north of where we are, so we shall reposition and stand by in another place. Such good prospects. Mark following fresh leopard tracks, possibly Djuma or quarantine, I would guess, judging by the area that those tracks are moving in, but who knows, it could be a surprise. Either way, the last leopard we saw was on Tuesday. That was the only one we saw last week. And I'm hoping this week our leopard luck changes and we have an influx of sightings.
What happened to that grizzly you had on Cinema's map line this morning?
Maybe this termite mound that you can see is going to be a landmark that she could head towards. Leopard will often move from termite mound to termite mound and use them as vantage points on which they can survey their surroundings. If she does creep up over this termite mound, it'll be absolutely beautiful. They often get into full stalk mode and almost slither up the back of a mound, and we'll just get her eyes and ears poking up carefully, making sure she doesn't give herself away to anything that could be on the opposite side. Now, I'm hoping Aubrey hasn't lost her in this thick vegetation. There's a chance he has. But that's not a problem. I'm confident we'll find her. We've got a long stretch of straight road that I'm fairly confident we'll spot her on as she crosses, even if it's behind us. I'm searching in a 180-degree kind of vector in the general direction that she's been moving. Brian, did you get a glimpse of her as she crossed the road earlier? Or not? Okay. So it's both of us haven't seen her yet, but we know she's nearby. And like many scenarios we face out here, patience can be our best friend. And we will continue to be patient, and it is going to certainly be worth waiting for, I can assure you, when we do lay eyes on this female leopard with this perfect golden morning sunlight.